Welcome to Dr. P.C. Verma Economics YouTube Economics class. In this class today we will discuss for aspirants adopted economics as a mains paper or UPSC, Indian Economic Service, Reserve Bank Officers Grade Examination, Bihar Public Service Commission, Bihar State Finance Service. Wherever economics is optional, you are required to know the facts which I am discussing. We are discussing today classical economics paradigm explained by James M. Buchanan, Nobel Prize winner in economic science in 1987. Buchanan said that classical economics paradigm explains the condition of built-in equilibrating forces under capitalistic economy. Classical economics embodied the presumption that there existed built-in equilibrating forces, which ensured that a capitalistic economy would generate continuing prosperity and high level of employment. Exogenous shocks might, of course, occur, but these would trigger reactions that would quickly and surely tend to restore overall equilibrium at high employment levels. Such an image seemed counter to the observed facts of the 1920s in Britain and of 1930s almost everywhere under Great Depression of 1930s. National economies seem to be floundering, not prospering, and unemployment seem to be both pervasive and permanent. Keynes boldly challenged the basic classical paradigm of his construction. Number one, Keynes badly challenged the basic classical paradigm of his construction. Number two, Keynes denied the very existence of the self-equilibrating forces of the capitalistic economy. Number three, Keynes rejected the extension of the Malthusian concept of particular market equilibrium to the economy as a whole and to the aggregate that might be introduced to describe it. Number four, Keynes says that a national economy might attain equilibrium, but there need to be no assurance that the automatic forces of the market would produce acceptably high and growing real output and high level of employment. What is important for us is the observed intellectual success of the central Keynesian challenge. From the early 1940s, Most professionally trained economists looked at the economy differently from the way they might have looked at the self-same phenomenon in the early 1920s or early 1930s. In a great sense of the phrase, a paradigm shift takes place. National economies seem to be floundering, not prospering, and unemployment seems to be both pervasive and permanent. Classical economics classical economics embodied embodied the presumption classical economics embodied the presumption that there existed there existed built-in built-in equilibrating equally equilibrating forces which ensured which which ensured that a capitalist that a capitalist economy that a capitalist economy would generate would would generate continuing prosperity. Prosperity and high level employment. High level employment. Exogenous shocks might of course occur, but but these would trigger trigger reactions reactions that would that would quickly that would quickly and surely lend lend to restore to lend to restore surely tend to restore surely tend to restore overall equilibrium equilibrium overall tend to restore overall equilibrium at high employment level at high employment levels. Such an image such an image seemed counter counter to the observed facts. Observed observed facts of the 1920s 1920s in Britain and of 1930s and of 1930s and 1930s almost everywhere. Almost everywhere. National economies national economies seemed to be floundering 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 not prospering not prospering and unemployment seemed to be both pervasive both pervasive and permanent. Hence, boldly challenged challenged the basic classical paradigm of his construction. Paradigm of his construction. Number one, Keynes boldly 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 challenged the basic classical paradigm paradigm of his construction. Construction. Keynes denied Keynes denied the very existence existence the very existence denied the very existence of the self self equilibrating equally equili- equilibrating forces of the capitalist economy, of the capitalist economy. Keynes rejected. Keynes rejected the extension, the extension of the Malthusian concept of the Malthusian concept of particular, of particular market equilibrium, market equilibrium to the economy, to the economy as a whole, as a whole, and to the aggregate, and to the aggregate, aggregates that might that might be introduced, be intro, that might be introduced to that aggregates that might be that might be introduced to describe it, to that might be introduced, to describe it. Describe it. Or four. Can say that a national economy might 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 attain equally equilibrium, but but there need to be but there need to be need to but there need but there need be no assurance, no no assurance that the automatic that the automatic that the automatic forces of the of the market market would produce would would produce acceptably accept acceptably high and high acceptably high and growing and growing real output and high level employment and high level employment. What is important for us? What is important for us? What is important for us is the what is important for us is the observed observed. What is important for us is the observed intellectual success. Intellectual success of the of the central Keynesian challenge. From the early 1940s, most professionally, most pro professionally trained economist, trained economists looked looked at the economy differently, differently from the way from the way they might have looked, they might have might have looked at the self same phenomenon phenomenon in the early 1920s or early 1930s. In a general sense, in a general sense of the phrase, of the phrase, a a a paradigm shift took place. Thus, we conclude that Nobel Prize winner economist James M. Buchanan, correct pronunciation, Buchanan, says that classical economics paradigm, that is built in equilibrating forces under capitalistic economy, were discarded by Keynes in 1930s. Keynes badly challenged the basic classical paradigm of its construction. Keynes badly challenged the basic classical paradigm of its construction. Keynes denied the very existence of the self-equilibrating forces of the capitalist economy. Keynes rejected the extension of the Malthusian concept of particular market equilibrium to the economy as a whole and to the aggregate that might be induced to describe it. Keynes says that a national economy might attain equilibrium, but there need be no assurance that the automatic forces of the market would produce acceptably high and growing real output and high level of employment. What is important for us is the observed intellectual success of the central Keynesian challenge. From the early 1940s, most professionally trained economists looked at the economy differently from the way they might have looked at the self-same phenomenon in the early 1920s and early 1930s. In a general sense of the phrase, paradigm shift took place. So as we find out that James M. Buchanan is great critic of Keynes. He said that Keynes became successful in 1930s by imposing fiscal deficit, huge amount of borrowing and public debt and government intervention, and ruled out the laissez-faire and started the state intervention in economic activity in order to attain employment opportunities quickly, and 160 lakh unemployed Americans due to Great Depression got employment gradually in 2 or 3 years. Keynes pointed out that very short-run method to remove unemployment is digging holes in gold mines. This was the line written in the General Theory of Employment, Trust and Money. Because gold mines are there in America, so many gold mines, Nevada, Colorado, Arizona, near California, Dakota. So workers will enter into the gold mines and work 8 hours, come back and take dollar and go to the market. This process will, in a cumulative process, more and more dollar will be in the hands of those who are working in public employment programs, and in the market, the overproduction, pessimistic attitude of the businessman entrepreneur will be removed. There will be finished stocks. New stocks will be created only by production. So productive activities will start, and it will regenerate itself, and it will lead to further employment of all factors of production, labor, capital, and land, and it will be return of the equilibrium. Keynes suggested that there cannot be automatic return, as classical paradigm assumed automatic return will come. Keynes said no automatic return. Government had to interfere through the huge public expenditure, through fiscal deficit, through taking more public debt, the spending largely construction of roads, rails, airport, buildings, schools, colleges, and many infrastructure. This will generate employment in the economy, and fund will be collected by fiscal deficit through the public debt. Keynes was successful. Keynesian revolution era started 1933. Nobel Prize winner economist James A. Buchanan said that gradually Keynesian revolution reduced to zero. By 1977, new Keynesian economics, neo-Keynesian economics, post-Keynesian economics adopted in the USA, and most of the economists were in favor of budget balance. Budget balance was actually in classical period, there was budget balance constitution. Although that fiscal constitution of classical economics was not written, but it was in practice. So, Keynesian revolution remained at the top from 1933 to 1977. After 1977, there is a end of the Keynesian revolution, and James A. Buchanan and Richard E. Wagner all are interested in fiscal policy. And so in the modern fiscal policy, the situation changed, and there is one objective, that is balanced budget. Budget may be imbalanced, budget may be passive, or may be active, but aim of the economy is to have a budget balance. This was the finding of Nobel Prize winner economist James M. Buchanan, and supported by Richard E. Wagner. That's all. And as usual, those who are listening must like it, subscribe it, comment it. This is what at least it is needed from you. I am Dr. P.C. Verma, economist. I am teaching economics for the competitive examination from 1973 to 2026. In this range of 50 years, 3 times syllabus changed. So I am well aware that what terminology you should develop for your success. Thank you for watching this.